All right, guys, welcome back to the Blessed Family Podcast. Hope you're doing well. We are going to jump right into this one. This is going to be short and sweet. The question on the table today is how to be a good conversationalist. And this is something you need to teach your sons and daughters. This is one of the essentials. This is more important than spelling and math, even though spelling and math are very important. This is huge, and it's not taught in curriculums. It's not taught in schools. It's supposed to be instilled by moms and dads. You need to make it a goal. This is a bigger deal today than ever before because there's more working against this than ever before. Historically, to get information, by and large, you had to, unless you're reading something, you had to look at people. But now you just look at a device. For all of the fellowship, all of the fulfillment, quote unquote, it's empty. But we really need to raise Christian sons and daughters in general, who know how to be a good conversationalist. So this is for sons and daughters. Being able to have a meaningful conversation is a skill that needs to be preserved, and so I have a few pointers. Okay, a few pointers. First of all, let's ask the question, what is the goal of conversation? Ultimately, it is to bring God glory by ministering to people and also to receive ministry depending on who you're talking to. So this is about God's doing something in your life, God's doing something in their life, and this is about helping each other. Conversations are one of the main ways. God created all things by His words, by speaking things into being. We speak. We give birth to light and darkness through our words. Words are a big deal. They can tear up. They can build. They can build up. They can tear down. This is why in Matthew 12, Christ says that we're going to be judged according to our words. Okay, so tips: countenance, eye contact, important. You look at people. You smile, but you smile when appropriate. If I'm having a serious conversation with a guy, I'm not going to sit there smiling like a goofball. Depends on who you're speaking with. If I'm meeting a child, I'll smile. If I'm meeting an adult, I'll smile and say pleasure to meet you. But then, depending on what we're talking about, I have a serious look. If they're sharing with me, like what happened yesterday or the day before at church, that they just lost a loved one, my countenance is going to reflect that. Right? The face is the window to the soul. So countenance, eye contact. Eye contact's a big deal. You teach your children this. Body language is important. You look them in the eye once again. You nod your head. You honor their personal space. You don't want to be up in their face. These are all things that you need to teach your children. Is it fair to say that in Western civilization we have maybe one of the biggest issues with this ever in the history of Western civilization? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's up there really high. This is best learned by watching people talk. So I get my kids together. I'm out with my son Abraham, Job. Job's 11, and I go up and I'm talking to someone, and Job's there, and I talk to that guy, and afterwards I kind of break it down. I say, Job, did you see how I looked him in the eye? Yes, sir. Did you see how I nodded my head? Did you see how I did this and that? All right, now, so everything I've given you so far is physical, right? Expressions, eyes, handshake, firm handshake, by the way. There's some conversation on handshaking with women, but that's a different topic. But physically, there are things that need to be present, right? Eye contact, all of that's huge. But another very important principle or very important tip is to take interest in the person and ask questions. Hey, newsflash. People like to talk about themselves. Excuse me. People like to talk about themselves. And so to minister to people, one of the best things you can do is ask questions. Mr. Jones, what do you do for a living? Where did you grow up? Tell me about your family. So therefore, sir, what advice would you give me as I'm entering into adulthood? Or you're a lady talking to a woman. Mrs. Jones, how long have you been married? How long or how did your husband propose? Tell me about your wedding. Tell me about your children. What's some advice you would have for me? Man, Jesus was 12. We have one story of him between infancy and the start of his ministry. At 30, it's 12. And what was he doing? He was asking questions. Asking questions is a great sign of wisdom. When I meet a young man and this happens and they just ask questions, I'm like, wow, this guy or this gal is wise. You also want to try to remember names. And there's some tricks to that, like mental pictures. Like if I meet a guy named Mike, I picture him holding a microphone. There's tricks like that. But you know what the best tip I can give you is is to go into a conversation with the goal of remembering the name. That might sound funny, but if I paid you $10, I said, look, go up and meet that person, and I'm going to pay you $10 if afterwards you still know their name. You'd be like, okay, hey, how's it going? Oh, your name's Michael? Michael. Okay, it's Michael. $10. Awesome. Sounds silly, but you just need to make a point. Most of the time when we meet people, we're more interested in telling them our name. Yeah, I'm Jared. I'm sorry. Well, what was your name again? And so you make it a goal when you're going into a context where you're going to meet new people, or you walk up to meet someone, you make a point to remember their name. So, eye contact, your countenance, respecting personal space. Building on top of that, asking questions, flowing with the conversation, right? Remembering their name. If you can get those down, that is, and then, so that's like entry level, and then you just need to do it. You just learn by doing. So you go and you have conversations with people. Now, why is this important? Because this is why it's important, because we are called to be a light. We are called to disciple the nations. We are called to be Christ to people. And I want you to compare and contrast here. Let's say that you're talking to someone and they never look at you in the eye, and they ask your name 3 times, and they're just talking about them. They don't ask you questions. Is that giving any light? I mean, is that ministering to anyone? No. But let's say you meet someone, they look you in the eye, their face is very reflective, their countenance is reflective of the conversation. They're asking questions. Now the Spirit of God has an opportunity, not putting limits on the Spirit of God, but the Spirit of God uses that to minister to people. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so if you want your children, which I know you do, to be the kind that are able to glean wisdom from the aged and then give wisdom to those who need it, you teach them how to be a great conversationalist. You know, this was simple. This was short, quick, easy. And yet, man, it is huge. This is one of the 16 essentials that we have in our book, The Essentials, 16 Qualities That Set Children Up for Success, Amazon.com. But this is a big deal. It's a really big deal. Well, friends, what more can I say except for love you guys. God bless you. Excited about this new year, 2025. May this be the greatest year thus far for you and your family and your church. Love you guys very much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.